Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're looking at, well, a really fascinating essay by an author named Swiffing from December 2024.
Yeah, it's titled The Value and Significance of Global Division of Labor and Collaboration. And it is quite a read.
It really is. Our mission today is to unpack it because it completely flips how we think about the global economy. But to start, I want you, the listener, to just imagine something for a second.
Right, the thought experiment.
Exactly. Imagine that you are one of only 8 people left living on Earth. Just the 8 of you standing around looking at a big empty planet. You have a very immediate, very practical choice to make about how you're going to survive.
Which is, a pretty high stakes choice.
Yeah, definitely. Do you all scatter, find your own isolated corners, and completely fend for yourselves? Or do you sit down around a campfire and divide up the labor?
I mean, when you strip away all the noise of modern life, the collaborative choice isn't just the smart move, right? It's really the only one that doesn't lead to total misery.
Absolutely.
In a micro-utopia of just 8 people, the division of labor is actually beautiful. Like one person handles all the farming and foraging, another takes care of weaving and clothing, a third focuses entirely on building and maintaining the shelters.
Right, and the author lists all 8, which I love. You get someone managing a transportation cart, someone figuring out a basic power or fire system.
Yeah, and someone manufacturing the tools everyone else needs.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You even free someone up to provide education and entertainment. And finally, one person to manage healthcare and, eventually, end-of-life services.
When you break it down into those specific roles, society suddenly functions like a Swiss watch.
It does. And if you don't do that, the alternative is just pure, unadulterated exhaustion.
Oh, completely. It's a nightmare.
Right. In the completely self-reliant version of this world, you, as one of those 8 people, have to wake up, till the soil, grow your own crops, harvest them, cook your meals. But you also have to weave your own shirts from scratch.
And patch the roof of the house you built.
Yes. Fix the dirt road in front of it, somehow generate your own heat or power, forge your own tools, try to mend your own broken bones.
And to top it all off, you have to build your own coffin and dig your own grave.
It's just a completely absurd way to live. But this thought experiment isn't just some random sci-fi scenario, is it?
No, not at all. It's the core framing device for the essay. It forces us to look at a very simple, undeniable truth. On a micro level, dividing tasks absolutely obliterates self-reliance.
Yeah, because specialization drastically reduces costs. Right?
Exactly. It optimizes our limited energy and actually creates surplus wealth. It frees you up to get really good at something rather than being terribly mediocre at literally everything.
And we accept this in our daily lives without a second thought. You don't pave the street in front of your house. You pay taxes so a specialized crew can do it.
Right. And you don't forge the steel for your car. You buy one from people who spend their lives perfecting assembly lines.
We intuitively get that specialization equals a higher standard of living. But, and here's the transition, if this logic is so undeniable for individuals, why does it completely fall apart when we look at the global map?
Yeah, that's the million-dollar question.
Because right now, we aren't acting like that collaborative 8-person village. If you scale that up to our current 8-billion-person world, nations are acting like the hermits trying to build their own coffins.
The macro disconnect is honestly staggering. Instead of looking at the globe and asking who does what best, almost every single nation is frantically trying to do absolutely everything itself.
You see the redundancies everywhere once you start looking for them. The text points out how every country wants its own domestic agriculture, even if they have terrible soil or a freezing climate.
Right, or they want to manufacture their own steel.
Produce their own heavy machinery, build their own automobiles, develop their own commercial aircraft.
And right now, the ultimate obsession is microchips. Every major power is pouring billions into creating completely independent semiconductor supply chains.
It's a massive planet-wide duplication of effort. So why are we doing this?
Well, what's fascinating here is that to understand why this happens, we have to look at the underlying mechanics. It really comes down to a massive trust deficit.
Like a fear of being cut off.
Exactly. In game theory, there's this concept called the prisoner's dilemma, where 2 rational actors make decisions that are completely irrational for the group just because they cannot guarantee what the other person will do.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that makes perfect sense.
Nations operate in a constant state of this dilemma. They're terrified of dependency. The fear is that if you rely on someone else for your food, your energy, or your tech, well, they have leverage over you.
Right. So to neutralize that leverage, countries try to establish these comprehensive, entirely self-contained systems across agriculture, industry, information, services, and the military.
just to avoid relying on anyone else.
Okay, let's unpack this with a neighborhood analogy, because the sheer inefficiency of this behavior really deserves a spotlight.
I love a good analogy. Go for it.
Imagine you live in a really nice suburban cul-de-sac. Normally, everyone just hooks up to the municipal water main and the local power grid. It's cheap, it's efficient, it works.
Sure.
But instead, a wave of paranoia sweeps the street. Every single household decides they need to be 100% independent. You look over your fence, and the guy next door is trying to build a miniature nuclear reactor next to his kid's swing set.
That sounds incredibly dangerous.
Right. And the family across the street is digging a massive water treatment plant in their driveway. And you're out there furiously installing a smelting forge on your patio.
Just in case you get into an argument over property lines and someone tries to cut off your water.
Exactly. It costs a fortune, it's incredibly dangerous, and it turns the entire neighborhood into a loud, polluted, stressful place to live.
That's actually the perfect visualization of our current geopolitical landscape. By insisting on having a backyard water treatment plant, or, a domestic steel industry, when you lack the iron ore and cheap energy to support it, you squander an unbelievable amount of capital and human potential.
It's the definition of a globally irrational strategy. So, if this every nation for itself model is the problem, what exactly does the author propose as the solution?
The essay actually sketches out a radical blueprint for what a fully optimized global factory should look like. But it requires a total paradigm shift.
Meaning nations would have to entirely abandon this paranoid pursuit of comprehensive self-reliance.
Exactly. Instead, they would look inward, do a ruthless audit of their geographic conditions, their climate, natural resources, and their existing tech infrastructure, and then commit to doing only what they're naturally best equipped to do.
The specific assignments the author throws out to paint this picture are fascinating and honestly a little provocative.
They definitely are.
Under this model, a country like China, with its massive established manufacturing base and logistics network, specializes entirely in producing clothing, toys, and the daily physical necessities for the entire globe.
Right. And Russia, sitting on vast expanses of land and immense natural resources, focuses its energy entirely on basic energy extraction like natural gas manufacturing chemical fertilizers, and essentially acting as the world's wheat farm.
And the highly industrialized nations follow the same strict specialization, right?
Yeah, so the United States, leveraging its massive university infrastructure and capital markets, handles the bulk of global education, technological innovation, and acts as the guarantor of global security.
While Germany leans into its centuries of engineering culture to focus exclusively on manufacturing heavy machinery and equipment.
And Japan uses its specific industrial evolution to produce small automobiles and high-tech home appliances.
My favorite example from the text, though, is Zimbabwe.
Oh yeah, that one is really interesting.
The blueprint suggests that based on its specific climate, geography, and demographics, its optimal role in the global factory would be developing massive world-class tourism and elderly care industries.
It's an incredibly precise slicing of the global economic pie. But as you can imagine, for this kind of planetary assembly line to function without grinding to a halt in 5 minutes, there are some monumental prerequisites.
Right, the catch. What are the prerequisites for this paradise?
Well, there are 3 strict, non-negotiable conditions. First, tariffs must be eradicated. 0 tariffs globally. The exchange of goods and services has to be as frictionless as handing a wrench to the person standing next to you.
Okay, wow. That's a huge hurdle right there.
It gets bigger. Second, you need the completely free movement of people. Labor has to be able to flow to where the industries are without artificial borders stopping them.
And the third?
Humanity has to genuinely adopt the concept of a united global family. Because if a single country gets paranoid and closes its borders, the entire global supply chain snaps, and people starve.
But wait, look at this realistically for a second on behalf of the listener. Is it actually fair or even ethical to tell an entire population their only global purpose is making toys?
That's the huge caveat, isn't it?
Yeah. What if you're born in Russia and you have absolutely zero interest in being a wheat farmer or a gas engineer? What if a country's population doesn't want to solely focus on elderly care? Assigning whole countries just 1 or 2 identities feels like it crushes individual human agency.
It's the classic tension between the collective good and individual liberty. The author anticipates this hesitation, though.
How so?
Well, the framework approaches this from a heavily utilitarian perspective. The argument is that ignoring a country's natural, built-in advantages isn't just a matter of personal preference. It's a tragic waste of potential.
A waste of potential.
Yeah, it views the misallocation of resources as fundamentally harmful to the progress of the human race. If you have a profound natural advantage in agriculture, but you insist on diverting billions to build a mediocre tech sector just out of national pride, you are actively robbing the rest of the world of the cheap, abundant food you could have produced.
And the examples the essay uses to highlight this idea of national mismatches are hilarious, but incredibly striking.
They really paint a picture.
Like, should Bangladesh, dealing with its specific economic constraints and geographic vulnerabilities, be pouring billions into developing a competitive space program?
Obviously not.
Should Mongolia, a country famously locked between two massive land masses with no ocean access, focus its national budget on building a blue water navy?
Right.
Or should Zambia try to spearhead global AI innovation, or Ethiopia pour everything into building heavy steel industry?
The text emphatically says no. They just lack the conditions. It's not a commentary on the intelligence or capability of the people living there. It's a simple acknowledgement that fighting against geography and climate is a deeply inefficient uphill battle.
And the essay parallels this with individual mismatches, which I thought was a brilliant way to explain it.
Yeah, the human talent examples. Think about Elon Musk. You could probably force Elon Musk to spend his life raising rabbits.
I mean, he'd probably figure out a way to breed them very efficiently.
Exactly. But it's a waste. Or you could demand Mark Zuckerberg dedicate his entire life to crafting artisanal wine. You could take Ren Zhengfei, the founder of Huawei, and tell him his highest calling is being the mayor of a tiny rural town.
Or you could force the legendary soprano Maria Callas to put down the microphone, pick up a hammer, and frame houses for a living. You could do it, but the genius is entirely wasted.
By forcing Maria Callas to swing a hammer, you gain a painfully average house builder. But the world loses a once-in-a-generation artistic voice. The logic here is that nation-states operate on the exact same principle.
When a nation tries to do everything, it achieves mediocrity across the board.
And robs the globe of its unique, exceptional contribution, which perfectly sets up the central metaphor of the whole essay, the chessboard.
Yes, the chessboard. Walk us through that.
So imagine humanity and the entire globe as a giant chessboard. Anyone who's played chess knows the pieces are fundamentally unequal. A king, a knight, a rook, a bishop, a pawn. They all have highly specific roles and vastly different capabilities.
And the game relies on those differences.
Exactly. If you try to force a rook to move diagonally like a bishop, you don't just break the rules, you create chaos and lose the game. The author views humanity as a global chessboard where every country and ethnicity has a specific, unique ability to contribute. Exceeding those limits just leads to inefficiency.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting, because we have to push back intellectually on this chess analogy.
Let's hear it.
A knight carved out of wood is always going to be a knight. It sits in a box, and its nature never changes. But human nations evolve. If we lock developing nations into specific roles based on their current conditions, aren't we preventing a pawn from ever reaching the other side of the board and becoming a queen?
That is the most significant flaw in the model.
Think about South Korea in the 1950s. It was an agrarian, war-torn nation. If they had accepted their natural condition at the time, they would just be farming rice today. Instead, they evolved into a global titan of technology and pop culture.
Yeah, they changed their piece on the board.
Exactly. If we enforce the static chessboard model, we never get a company like Samsung.
And that brings us to the difference between static and dynamic optimization. The blueprint is a masterpiece of static optimization, saying, given the world right now, what's the most efficient setup? But human progress relies on dynamic optimization, the messy, inefficient struggle to build entirely new capabilities.
Nations want the freedom to evolve.
They do. But despite these philosophical debates about evolution versus efficiency, the essay acknowledges a much darker, simpler reason why this global collaboration isn't happening today. And it isn't because world leaders are worried about being pawns forever.
Right. It's time for the harsh reality. What is actively hindering this beautiful collaboration?
Self-interest and greed. The primal instinct to hoard resources, to dominate your neighbors, and to prioritize short-term national security over long-term global stability.
So leaders aren't optimizing for the human race. They're optimizing for their own borders and their own political survival.
Yes. But the exploration of these ideas ends with a powerful concluding thesis that redefines civilization itself. We currently view global competition as a sign of progress, right? We track who has the highest GDP, who is winning the AI race, who has the most lethal military. like a scoreboard.
Yeah, we totally do.
But the author argues that competition is actually not the hallmark of an advanced civilization. True civilization means playing to strengths, dividing labor, collaborating, and ultimately serving one another without fear. Constant competition is a symptom of an immature society.
So what does this all mean for the listener? I mean, think about how this applies to your own life, whether you are managing a team at work, running a household, or just looking at geopolitical news.
It challenges a lot of our basic assumptions.
It really does. We are culturally conditioned to view rugged individualism as the ultimate virtue. We praise people who do it all themselves. But this deep dive challenges you to question whether that instinct to refuse to delegate is actually making you stronger or just profoundly inefficient.
Are you building a nuclear reactor in your backyard when you could just reach out and share the load? It requires a massive psychological shift to stop viewing dependency as a weakness.
Which leaves us with a final, provocative thought to mull over. Something that builds on the text but takes it a step further.
I'm intrigued.
If complete global division of labor makes every nation entirely dependent on a network of others for their most critical needs, from food to energy to tech, does that ultimate vulnerability actually become the greatest weapon for world peace?
Oh, wow. Because you literally couldn't fight.
Exactly. In a fully specialized world, going to war would mean instantly cutting off your own food or turning off your own power grid. By surrendering our total independence and embracing mutually assured dependence, do we accidentally make war mathematically impossible?
That is a fascinating way to look at it.
It's just something to think about the next time you find yourself trying to do everything all on your own.